What's going on, everybody, and welcome back to another edition of Kyle on the Call Sports. I'm Kyle Russo. On today's show, what I want to talk about is how a former number one overall pick will be replacing the legend himself, Tom Brady, at the quarterback position this upcoming season for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. But before we get started, make sure to like this video and make sure to subscribe to my YouTube channel at Kyle on the Call Sports. Now, without further ado, let's jump into the show. The former number one overall pick that I'm talking about that has recently signed with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers is Baker Mayfield. Now, Baker Mayfield was an outstanding, and I mean an outstanding quarterback when he was playing for the Oklahoma Sooners back in college. In fact, in 2017, he won the Heisman Trophy. Baker Mayfield was selected with the first overall pick back in the 2018 draft by the Cleveland Browns. And in his 5-year career so far, he spent the first 4 years of his career with the Browns. And in those 4 years with the Browns, he had a record of 29-30, had a career completion percentage with the Browns of 61.6%, threw for over 14,000 yards, threw 92 touchdowns, and threw 56 interceptions. Now, those stats aren't eye-popping by any stretch of the imagination, but reflecting back to one of his better seasons with the Cleveland Browns was in 2020. And in 2020, he had a quarterback record of 11-5. The Browns made the playoffs that year. Baker Mayfield individually himself had a 62.8 completion percentage, threw for 26 touchdowns, and only 8 interceptions. Now, in that year, the Cleveland Browns made it out of the first round and would go on to play the Kansas City Chiefs in the second round of the playoffs. And if we remember that game, specifically, Patrick Mahomes went down in the third quarter, and the Cleveland Browns had an opportunity to come back but fell short. And that was arguably Baker Mayfield's best and most consistent year throughout a 16-game schedule and throughout a 16-game season. Plus, that was the only playoff appearance for the Cleveland Browns in the tenure of Baker Mayfield, suiting up for them at the quarterback position. Now, the following year in 2021 was where he spent his final year with the Cleveland Browns, where he would have a 6-8 record, had a bad season, had a lingering shoulder injury throughout the year, missed some time, and then eventually would have surgery. Now, that was his last year with the Cleveland Browns. This previous season, in 2022-2023, he spent half the year with the Carolina Panthers, going 1-5, throwing 6 touchdowns and 6 interceptions, until he was eventually released, where then the LA Rams, who struggled as well this season with quarterback injury, with Matthew Stafford being injured for the majority of the season, with Cooper Kupp going down with a season-ending injury. Baker Mayfield appeared in a total of 5 games, started in 4 of those games, and had a quarterback record of 1-3. So a total of 2-8 on the season for Baker Mayfield between the Carolina Panthers and the Los Angeles Rams. Now let's talk about the now. Baker Mayfield signs with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who Tom Brady had an amazing 20-plus year career that included 7 Super Bowl championships, obviously 6 with the New England Patriots, 1 with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers back in 2021. And now Tom Brady just finished up his last NFL season, his second retirement with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, but I believe this one is official, and according to what he is saying, this one is official. So right now on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers roster, they have 2 quarterbacks, Baker Mayfield and Kyle Trask. And Kyle Trask was a former second-round pick out of Florida who has never really been given the opportunity, obviously because Tom Brady was the starting quarterback for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers these last 3 seasons. But now with Baker Mayfield being a part of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers roster, essentially there will be some quarterback competition. And Tampa Bay Buccaneers are not a bad football team and will not be a bad football team, especially in the NFC South, which was the second worst division in all of football aside from the AFC South, which went 23-43 between the 4 teams in the AFC South last season in the 2022-2023 NFL season. Now, the Buccaneers are a team that have a lot of talent, right? Chris Godwin, Mike Evans, Rashad White, Cade Otton now in his second year, Russell Gage, and that's just on the offensive side of the ball. Now, the defense is the real strength of this Buccaneers team, with guys like Carlton Davis, Jamel Dean, Vita Vea, Devin White. They just re-signed Levante David. They have some really good defensive players. Sean Murphy Bunting, Mike Edwards. The list goes on, and I know I'm missing some people as I'm listing it out, but proving my point that this team is deep on defense. Antoine Winfield Jr. is another name, another star on that defense. However, on the offensive side of the ball, because of some cap casualties, they did release some of their strengths, which was their offensive line. They had to trade a Shaq Mason, who started for them this season, to the Texans. They released longtime left tackle Donovan Smith after he had a bad year with penalties in 2022. They released Cameron Brate. They released Leonard Fournette. But now, essentially, building back some cap space, and they will have some picks in the draft, they will be able to build this team and make them better. And especially in a division with the New Orleans Saints, who, yes, did get better by adding Derek Carr, but we'll see how much they improve. And yes, two other teams like the Atlanta Falcons and the Carolina Panthers specifically, who will be selecting with the number one overall pick in this year's draft, who we assume will be selecting a quarterback to kind of rebuild their franchise. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers all around might be the most talented team within that division. Now, the Buccaneers did fire their offensive coordinator, Byron Leftwich, this season, but they did bring in a new offensive coordinator, David Canales. Now, the reason why I highlight David Canales with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and what I think he can potentially do to help improve not only this offense, but Baker Mayfield in this offensive scheme is because of how well David Canales essentially turned around the career of Geno Smith. And Geno Smith, starting with the Seattle Seahawks this year, David Canales being his quarterback's coach, had an unbelievable career year. Threw for 30 touchdowns, 11 interceptions, led the Seattle Seahawks to the playoffs, led the league in completion percentage. He had an excellent, excellent year. And now joining the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who essentially have a way better defense, the Seattle Seahawks offense was kind of similar to what the Tampa Bay Buccaneers offense is as well, in regards to obviously the skill players that they have around the quarterback. In Seattle, they had a DK Metcalf, they have a Tyler Lockett, they have a Noah Fant, and they have a good core of running backs. And the same thing with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. They have Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, Russell Gage, Cade Otton now in his second year, Rachaad White now in his second year, and then the time that Rachaad White played, backing up Leonard Fournette this season, he had some really solid numbers. And the big thing for me as well with the addition of David Canales is look at that number, completion percentage wise and touchdown wise, that Geno Smith had this year. Could he potentially do something like that with Baker Mayfield? Because Baker Mayfield, completion percentage has always been an issue, a career completion percentage of 61.4. And that's not necessarily great as a starting quarterback for 5 years now in the National Football League. Can he turn that around and improve Baker Mayfield as a quarterback? Can he get those passing yards up for Baker Mayfield? Now Baker Mayfield essentially working with maybe two of the best receivers that he's ever had to work with. I know he's obviously in Cleveland. He's had guys like Odell Beckham Jr., who's on and off the field, Rashad Higgins, Jarvis Landry. When he went to the Carolina Panthers, he had DJ Moore. With the LA Rams, I believe that Cooper Kupp was already injured, so I don't know if he had Cooper Kupp at this time. But point being, now the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, Mike Evans and Chris Godwin are two of the best receivers within the National Football League. And now Baker Mayfield having that offensive coordinator who spent time with the Seattle Seahawks being the quarterback's coach, proved to improve Geno Smith having a career year, earning himself a 3-year, $105 million contract with the Seahawks this offseason. Can he do the same with Baker Mayfield with the skill players that are around him? Especially in a division now that is not that great. And essentially going into the 2023-24 season, aside from the New Orleans Saints, the Atlanta Falcons will be better, but how much better? The Carolina Panthers are in complete rebuild mode as they essentially gave away, I say, 3 first-round picks because DJ Moore, I think, has the talent of a first-round pick wide receiver, the 9th overall selection, a 2024 first-round pick, and I believe 2 second-round picks in that deal to move up to the number 1 spot so that they can improve their offense for the long haul and draft the quarterback in which they want. But by doing that, you're giving up these draft picks that will help to improve your team. And now you look at that team overall, and they don't have many offensive weapons to use on that team. They just lost a Donta Foreman. I know they brought in a Miles Sanders to be the running back there, but on the wide receiver end of things, they don't have many wide receivers on that team. I believe Terrace Marshall, uh, Shi Smith, Laviska Shenault. Obviously trading DJ Moore away, that's their top offensive player. And referring back to last season as well, they traded away Christian McCaffrey. So Carolina is not going to be too great either. Now Baker Mayfield with a new offensive coordinator, who that offensive coordinator and David Canales improved Geno Smith in a complete turnaround of his NFL career, earning him such a massive contract to be the starting quarterback for the Seattle Seahawks long term, or at least for these next 3 years. Maybe he can do the same with Baker Mayfield in an offense that does have some stars on that team and on a defense that has plenty of stars on that team. The Buccaneers can definitely win some games in 2023. Overall, I think this is a great signing for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. It adds quarterback competition to the locker room. And again, I can't express this enough. Being what David Canales showed with the Seattle Seahawks, could we potentially see a turnaround in Baker Mayfield's career? Only time will tell. But again, overall, I think this is a great signing, and the Buccaneers will be competitive in the 2023-2024 NFL season. But that'll do it here from me today. Kyle Russo here on Kyle on the Call Sports. Make sure to like this video and make sure to leave your comments down below on your thoughts on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers signing quarterback Baker Mayfield. Once again, make sure to subscribe to my YouTube channel at Kyle on the Call Sports. Thank you again for listening. Thank you all for tuning in. I hope you've enjoyed, and I will see you in the next video.